The fundamental question for China and for its dance partner, the US, is what kind of world do we aspire to?
When the decision-making is in the hands of so few people. And of course, in particular, those few people who are not necessarily capable of handling issues of economic development.
China actually has unique capacity to insulate itself from the volatility of the global economy. And I believe that China needs to do more of that now in the age of the Trump 2.0.
That reported factually on Singapore.
The fundamental question for China and for its dance partner, the US, is what kind of world do we aspire to? One where one country seeks primacy, even dominance, over all others, out of a desire to be able to set the rules to its own advantage, or out of fear of being dominated by others. Such an approach is inherently zero-sum. President Xi Jinping wrote in his congratulatory message to President Trump on the latter's re-election, quote, "History tells us that both countries stand to gain from cooperation and lose from confrontation. Acknowledging the benefits from a collaborative approach is a good start point. But for both sides to act in accordance with it is quite another. A country can demonstrate strength through confrontation, or it can choose to demonstrate strength and self-confidence through cooperation. For now, unfortunately, both sides seem to be demonstrating strength through confrontation rather than cooperation. The implications of this choice, to be dance partners or battling gladiators, are seismic. Between the US and China, there are effectively three categories of issues. First, those that can lead to major conflict, dark red lines like Taiwan. Second, issues where there are differences, even deep differences, but ought not to, on their own, lead to conflict. Trade imbalances, protectionist policies, drugs, intellectual property protection, they can be negotiated. And third, there are issues of the global commons, such as climate change and pandemics, where cooperation is needed and inherently win-win. Both sides have declared that they do not seek nor want war with the other. If that is the case, then both sides should work to manage that first set of issues. This would provide the foundation to constructively address the second set of issues and to cooperate on the third.
When the decision-making is in the hands of so few people. And of course, in particular, those few people who are not necessarily capable of handling issues of economic development. They are more politically motivated, and therefore that gap between political wisdom and economic wisdom can be too great for them to make a difference, to make the country, to ensure the country continue to thrive. So the dangers are there. But the thing that troubles me most, anyway, is that expectations are high. Modernization has improved people's prospects to a point when the expectations continue to grow. And if your system fails to meet that growth, you will find objections rising among more and more people. And the young people who will have those expectations will feel more frustrated if they don't have the expectations met. The traditional method that the Chinese have always had successfully dealt with such problems is to keep everything local. In other words, if there are protests, dissatisfaction, unhappiness, if they can be kept local, they can usually handle it. They can send somebody there, party leader, send there to make concessions and solve the local problem. The issue is to never allow anything to cross borders into other counties, into provinces, into something that is national. The military, which is usually the most dangerous part in Chinese history, has also been to some extent controlled by the fact that all the leaders are members of the Chinese Communist Party and are controlled by the discipline of the Chinese Communist Party. So they have actually carefully measured out the areas where local dissent can always be managed.
Historically speaking, most of the factors that had impeded Chinese economic development were created within China. Right? Central planning system, Cultural Revolution, the Great Leap Forward. These were not decisions forced by other countries on the country. For a country the size of China, the continental size economy, 1.3 billion, 1.4 billion in population, now the second largest GDP in the world, China actually has unique capacity to insulate itself from the volatility of the global economy. And I believe that China needs to do more of that now in the age of the Trump 2.0, with the tariff war, with the, and since for the last 2 months, the recession fear has risen. Now I'm not going to say it's a consensus estimate, but now the concern is that within this year, the probability of recession is something like 50%. Biden economy was actually very strong, just across the board. So this is purely a policy-induced recession, domestic market potentials. But for China specifically, to unlock those potentials, I think the country needs to do more in terms of growing the income of its people. The rural Chinese, especially in terms of their pension levels and land rights, hukou reforms,